I know that everybody's problem comes down to one pattern you're repeating that you can't see. And that pattern is getting triggered by something that happened in your past that left you with this emotional scar. And so for me, the thing that I always, always, always have to deal with in myself is the fear of disappointing somebody. So if I'm in a situation where I start to feel that, it's an old trigger. And so when you finally have a word that describes in a visceral way this thing you hate about yourself, or this thing that triggers you, or whatever it may be, that's where the power comes, because now you can name the thing that was once controlling you. And so if you can identify, first of all, the pattern you keep repeating that makes you miserable or doesn't serve you or makes you lose your power or has you go numb, then you can start to go back and say, well, where did I first start doing this? And what was the experience that triggered it? Because that's the root of the problem right there. And when you expose all of that, the trigger and the emotional button, like I'm afraid of disappointing people, I'm afraid of disappointing people, I'm not worthy, I'm pissed off that this is happening to me. Now you have the ability to change it forever. The reason why your life isn't changing is because your thinking isn't changing. If you wake up every morning and the first thought in your head is making yourself wrong, why can't I just get out of bed? Why can't I just go exercise? Why can't I eat healthy? The reason why you can't change is because your thinking is stopping you. What is your limiting belief? What is the thing that you think about yourself? Maybe your parents or your mother or your father taught you to think that way about yourself. Maybe you went through a horrible breakup and that person made you feel unworthy. Maybe you've had a bunch of setbacks in your life and that's what gave you that limiting belief. But what is your limiting belief? Because today, what we're going to do today is we're going to take it a step further. Now that you've identified your limiting belief, we're going to look at what is it costing you to choose to repeat it. Because remember the quote I started with. You have a choice right now. You get to repeat the things you've always done, or you can evolve them and become more deliberate. Let's talk about the cost of that limiting belief. I'm going to go first. So write down your limiting belief. I see a lot of, I'm not good enough. My mental health is holding me back. I can't run a successful business. I'm lazy and I can't do anything. I'm not healthy enough. Money is the issue. I'm scared to fail. What is the limiting belief that you have? I'm certain it has something to do with not being enough. Once you've written that down, you're afraid of failure. You don't deserve success, all that kind of stuff. I don't know how to start. These are excellent. You're doing an excellent job. The first step to moving from that default into getting deliberate is actually seeing it. So seeing it is fantastic because now we can start to understand that, whoa, this got programmed in. It's my default mode. I want to get rid of it. How do we get rid of it? Well, let's first identify why you want to. Let's take a hard look at the cost of having this limiting belief. So in order to figure out the cost of having the limiting belief, what's my limiting belief? That I'm not a good person. That's my limiting belief. That I am not a good person. That you don't think I'm a good person. That I don't think I'm a good person. And here's what you're going to do in order to identify the cost, okay? You're going to ask yourself 3 questions, and they're very simple. What is this limiting belief in my case that I'm not a good person? What does it cost me in my past to think this way? What is it costing me in this present moment to think that I'm not a good person? And here's the kicker. If I don't evolve this, if I don't get deliberate, what is it going to cost me in the future to continue to think that I'm not a good person? So in the past, thinking that I'm not a good person, it did a bunch of things. First of all, it made me very sad. Secondly, it made me a liar because I assumed that I wasn't good enough and I'm not a good person, so I got to pretend to be somebody else. It also made me cheat on people because I didn't think I deserved love. And it also, by believing that I wasn't a good person, it somehow justified the bad behavior. I mean, if I'm a bad person, then I do bad things, right? What does it cost me in the present to believe that I'm not a good person? Well, it cost me a lot of joy. It costs me connection in friendships because I'm constantly questioning whether or not people actually like me for me. It makes me second guess myself and whether or not I deserve the success. And what does it cost me in the future? It's going to cost me everything. If I continue to repeat this pattern and I continue to allow myself to default to believing that I'm not a good person, I will never be fully happy. I will never be fully present. I probably will not be successful when we launch this new daytime talk show in the fall. And so I got a choice to make, and I want to get rid of this because I can see what allowing myself to believe that I'm not a good person is costing me. This exercise of identifying your limiting belief and then seeing what it's cost you in your past, your present, and your future is so important for you to do that I want to give you another example. So to really, really drive it home, okay? And so I want to bring in my husband. Why don't you scoot on this? I don't know if you can lean in on that thing. You sit on this chair. I'm going to bring in my husband, Christopher Robbins. Yes, if you've ever been a fan of Winnie the Pooh, his name is Christopher Robbins. And Chris is going to go through this exercise too. And I think it's important for we're sharing a chair here, and so we're like really close. I think it's important for you guys to know that Chris is one of the partners in our media company. He's our CFO, and he's also the founder of a men's retreat called Soul Degree. And he's a yoga instructor and president of the Booster Club. So this is a guy that's like really accomplished and super amazing. So with that context, founder of Soul Degree, what's your limiting belief?
Well, of course, it would be appropriate that I think forever it's just been that I'm not good enough, I think that's it, succinctly, that I'm not living up. And certainly in the past, it's been all around the decisions I've made career-wise, never thinking that I was in fact good enough, which just took away from, I suppose, all the joy that I could have had.
Were you really sad when you were little?
Yeah, I think I was just down and out, probably feeling alone, and like the decisions I had made along the path were not the right ones, and then that subsequently not performing, and or at least not performing to my own expectation.
So how has not feeling good enough? I can see how it would make you feel sad, especially, there's so much pressure on men to succeed, feeling like you weren't good enough in your career, blah, blah, blah. Even ski racing, because you grew up as a kid ski racing. How did feeling not good enough impact the way you raced?
I probably just could have skied a lot better than even I did, because I was constantly thinking it wasn't good enough.
And now what about in the present? What is the default belief that you're not good? Is it like, how is it still in your life in this moment? Because here's the thing about a limiting belief, guys, is that everybody will look at you on the outside and they'll be convinced you don't have it. They'll be shocked that you believe that about yourself. And that's why it's important for you to be honest with yourself about what your limiting belief is, because it's something you are doing to yourself. So what is the belief that you're not good enough? How is that impacting your life right now, Chris?
Probably has everything to do with just being the point parent. As much as I love being the point parent and having the time with the kids that I have, given your own schedule.
Let me explain what that means. So Chris and I Chris and I, because of the amount of work that I use, Chris is the one that is home more often. He's the one that is really in charge of what's going on with the kids. He has been home for these last 3 to 4 years, playing a huge role in the back end of our company. But the primary role is the parent. And traditionally, at least in the United States, it's the woman that does that. And so it's been, I think, a very fulfilling yet confronting thing for Chris to be playing that role in, am I saying this correctly?
Totally.
Just to bring everybody up to speed?
Just embracing the idea that me being the one at home handling the lion's share of the things at home are of course, consistent with my negative belief that that's not good enough, that that's not being supportive enough.
Is it also with success? Like that's not enough
Yeah,
in terms
it's
of your
not-
own career, even though you
Yeah, I
founded a
think
men's retreat?
Well,
Seriously.
you mean,
Well, you run Soul Degree, you run the Booster Club for the high school, you teach yoga classes, you are a CFO, and it's still not enough. And here's the thing that's so interesting, everybody. I'm going to ask Chris a question he doesn't know I'm going to ask him. If you could go back and do something different these last 3 or 4 years and actually go and work and build a business that's solely your own and not be around, and I mean, would you trade the years that you've had with our kids, the last 3 years, or for something else?
no, definitely not.
Well, see, then that's the thing that's crazy. Is here you're sitting here torturing yourself saying, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, it's not enough, it's not enough. But given the option, if we could wave a magic wand and change everything, and the circumstances would be different, but you had to trade the time that you had with our kids, would you do it? The answer is no. So here's the thing that's interesting, and I'm so happy that you admitted to that, because it points out the fact that your default thinking isn't logical. It's just a habit. It's something you've been doing for so long that you don't even realize it. And even though it doesn't serve you, and even though, like Chris just said, he would never change a thing, and yet he still thinks it's not enough. That to me means that there is some automation here that's going on in your brain where it's set on default. Oh, I got to just think I'm not enough. I got to think I'm not enough. I got to think I'm not enough. You know? Well, here's the bigger question. If you allow this default mode to stay programmed in your brain, how is that going to impact your future? Particularly if you think about things like your aspirations for Soul Degree, the men's retreat that you run.
I think that if it perpetuates, then I'm obviously my own impediment to what I want it to be. You know, if I'm constantly in that mindset of it's not enough, I haven't done enough, then how could Soul Degree ever become what it should be?
What do you want it to become?
I think I would love to see it touch as many men's lives.
You're about to cry, I could tell.
Yeah, as possible.
Why do you get choked up?
Just because I know the impact. I've experienced the positive impact that it can have, and it's limitless, I think, in the difference that it could make, regardless even of your age. So
Do you see how your limiting belief, the default thinking that you're not enough, will prevent you from...
Oh, totally.
How does it stop you when you think you're not enough? How does it stop you? Like, what are the things that you do when you start getting in that mindset?
Well, it's probably things that you don't do, right? Because if you're not going to be good enough, well, why go do that thing? Whether it's write more or, sort of test the elasticity of what Soul Degree could be also. I mean, it's in a state where there's still so much that we could do to enhance the experience, have it reach more people, which starts with my own. Again, I think part of the limitation is that I've always argued, hey, I'm a shitty marketer. I'm not good at putting the word out, if you will. And, even this conversation, talking about something like soul degree is...
How many of you can relate to this?
I could be a lot better at that.
You're just stopping yourself, not all the time because of your limiting belief. Like you go to write a blog post about the thing that fills your heart and you're like, ooh, should I really put this out there? That's your limiting belief. That's your default setting. And you're dead right, Chris, and it's the same thing for me and the same thing for Mandy. What was yours?
I'll never get there.
I'll never get there. I love that one. I'll never get there. Yeah. Because you can feel like just the no matter how hard I try, it's never going to be enough. I'm never going to get there. It's never going to happen. And how that sets you up to just race and race and race and race. And Danielle, what's yours?
But I'm not smart enough.
I'm not smart enough. Yeah, I'm not smart enough to do this. And so if your belief, the default that got programmed a long time ago is I'm not smart enough, then you'll tell yourself, I'm not smart enough to write this blog post. I'm not smart enough to figure this out. I'm not smart enough to build that kind of business. And I'm smart enough to attract the kind of person that I want. And the thing that's scary about default settings, everybody, is that not only are they automated in the default network in your brain, but they're a protection mechanism. By thinking you're not good enough, not smart enough, I'll never get there, not a good person, you actually hold yourself back. And that's one of the reasons why we cling to it. And so if you haven't already, because we're going to wrap up this training and I'm going to tell you what's coming up tomorrow and then we're going to answer questions. If you haven't already,
you got to hear the quote, though, from Nepo today.
Oh, okay.
It's so on point.
See, soul
topic.
Degree right here. So every morning.
It's so cheesy, but
no,
it's
not.
so good.
Every morning, Chris, and I mostly sometimes, Chris reads from this. This is so tattered. He's been doing it for years. My mom also reads this book every single day. Your mom reads this book every single day. It's a page or two every single day. Mark Nero was fighting cancer when he wrote this. And it's beautiful. So
Nepo.
Mark Nepo. Did I say it wrong? Nemo. I said Nemo.
But
Finding Nemo.
I'll just read a snippet because it's so on point for January 3rd. That is the 3rd, right, today?
Yeah.
Each person is born with an unencumbered spot, free of expectation and regret, free of ambition and embarrassment, free of fear and worry, an umbilical spot of grace where we are each first touched by God. It is this spot of grace that issues peace. Psychologists call this spot the psyche, theologians call it the soul, Jung calls it the seat of the unconscious, Hindu masters call it the Atman, Buddhists call it Dharma, Rilke calls it inwardness, Sufis call it Qualb, and Jesus calls it the center of our love. To know this spot of inwardness is to know who we are, not by surface markers of identity, not by where we work, or what we wear, or how we like to be addressed, but by feeling our place in relation to the infinite and by inhabiting it. This is the hard, lifelong task, for the nature of becoming is a constant filming over where we begin, while the nature of being is a constant erosion of what is not essential.
Oh.
Each of us lives in the midst of this ongoing tension, growing tarnished or covered over, only to be worn back to that incorruptible spot of grace at our core.
Well, I would say the one word that came to mind when you were reading that was, let's see if I can find it, not essential. You know what's not essential is your default thinking and your negative belief. And in fact, it is essential that you get rid of it. You're awesome. You don't have to go. I'm gonna keep wrapping.
I am gonna go.
You are going? Where are you going?
I'm sure
He's got a blog post to write because now he's gotten rid of his limiting belief. Bye.
See ya.
Okay. So tomorrow, I want you to write your limiting belief in there. And here's another thing. What is it costing you right now? What are the things you're not doing because of that limiting belief? For me, not being a good person, I think it's the thing that keeps me isolating myself. And it also, I can see how, just like Chris was explaining, that his limiting belief has him not doing things like writing more blog posts and putting himself out there. Even though I'm out there, there's, I think, a level to which I'm not because of this belief that I'm not a good person. So So I want you to write in the comments what's your limiting belief and what's it costing you right now. What are you not doing because of it? And I want to come back to the opening quote. You have a choice. You're either going to repeat what you're doing or you're going to evolve it. And when you ask yourself these 3 questions, what is my limiting belief cost me in the past? What's it costing me right now? And what is it going to cost me if I continue to choose to do it? If I continue to choose to be on default? Hopefully, getting in touch with that will help you, give you, motivate you, push you to choose to be deliberate in what you're thinking next. Because tomorrow what we're going to be talking about is how do you create a deliberate belief, one that you don't believe yet. We're going to teach you how to think this, not that. Because it's essential that you have something to go to for when you catch yourself going to that default. So trust me when I tell you, tomorrow we are going to take you from the, oh my God, I need to stop doing this, and into the mode of, okay, I got this. I can think this, not that. If you're in a situation where you should do something and the excuses roll in, you only have 5 fucking seconds before the excuses win. Yeah. That's it. And it has to do with how your brain is designed. And so I started seeing this 5-second window everywhere. Everywhere. You walk into a networking meeting and the 5-second window is right there because you look around and you see all these people you should talk to and you feel yourself freeze. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you can start walking. If you're trying to sell something, the 5-second window is always there because you either have a phone you need to pick up and make a phone call or you have a person you need to talk to, but instead of doing it, that 5-second window's right there and the excuses roll in and then you're not doing it.
Yep.
And so
it's almost like we talk ourselves out of it, right? After 5 seconds, like why not to do it? All these excuses.
And then it's even more sophisticated than that, which is what I discovered. And what's more sophisticated about it is that you have 2 modes to your brain. You have the prefrontal cortex, which is the mode of your brain. It's the front part of your brain that does all your strategic planning, your decision making, not all your decision making, that's wrong. It does your intentional decision making, conscious decision making. It's what you're using when you're acting with courage. It's what you're using when you are learning anything new. If you've ever taken a standardized test, when you walk out of a standardized test, what do you have? You have a freaking headache because you've been using this part of your brain. That's the one part. The other part is the interior part of your brain, which automates everything. It's where self-doubt is. It's where habits are. It's where automated decision-making is. It's where every negative bullshit shit that we do, it's stuck right here. So what the 5-second rule is actually doing on a very sophisticated level is it's switching off this part and awakening the part that gives you control. And so the problem with our excuses, if you want to get into the brain science, is that if you start to think, and you start to think, I feel tired, or I don't want to, or I'm too stressed out, or now's not the right time, that becomes automatic and it gets encoded right here. So part of the problem with our excuses is that when you stop and think and hesitate, you trigger your brain to automatically talk you out of it. That's the problem. It's not the excuses, it's that your brain has done it over and over and now it takes over. Right. So I invented the world's most powerful cheat code for the brain. So we've been getting a ton of questions about being paralyzed with the fear of what other people think. And this is so commonplace. I think every human being on the planet is paralyzed in some aspect or some area of their life because they're concerned about what their parents or what their friends or what their friends on Facebook or what their colleagues or what their upline or their downline or whatever, what their neighbors are going to think. If you are struggling with this and you have not found it helpful to attack your thinking patterns, then here's a trick that I want you to try to break the pattern of being paralyzed by what other people think. I want you to pick one thing that you've been wanting to do, that you've been thinking about, but you have stopped yourself from doing because you're concerned about what other people think. Let me give you some examples. Maybe you've wanted to go on a wellness retreat. but you think your spouse will roll their eyes at you, so you haven't done it. Maybe you have a particular Facebook post or a blog. So many of you want to start a business or start creating art, but you're terrified of putting yourself out there because of what other people will think. Today, we're going to break that pattern. What you're going to do is you're going to pick one thing you've been stopping yourself from doing, and you're going to do it. You're going to do it. And the reason why I want you to do this is because I know that if you're still paralyzed, you have not been able to change your thinking patterns yet. That's cool, no problem. We're going to try a different tactic. I want you to change this paralysis through action. Because if you sign up for that class, if you go on that retreat, if you create your art, if you post that blog post, if you start that business, you will be proving to yourself through the actions that you're taking that you don't care what other people think. Try that today. Let me know, number one, what you've stopped yourself from doing, and number two, what you're committing to doing today. Because one way to break this is to attack the thoughts and change the thoughts and get into action first. The other way to do it is to recognize that you're paralyzed, pick one thing that you're going to do, and actually get it done. You know, I'm always looking for new ways to explain the power of the 5-second rule and the power of 5-second decisions. And I read something that Tim Ferriss said that really resonated with me. And he had this one line buried in a podcast somewhere that just jumped out, and it's stuck. And what he said is, he said something about how there's a gap between the world and the things that trigger you and your response. And your entire life is that gap. When you start to, this is not what he said, he kind of identified this gap, and I, of course, intrinsically was like, well, absolutely, that's the 5-second window between instinct or stimulus and your reaction. And when you start to understand that your whole life plays out in this 5-second gap, and that there's a gap that's 5 seconds long between fear and courage, and there's a gap that's 5 seconds long between self-doubt and confidence, that is your life. And what's super cool about understanding that your whole life is inside this gap is it's so small, everybody, that you have the ability to control it. Life's always gonna throw triggers at you, and there will always be all kinds of cool things that inspire you, your wisdom, and you get to choose what happens in that gap. Do you succumb to an excuse, or do you push yourself forward? When you start to speak up in business, you'll be shocked at how you start to speak up in your relationships. When you start to make hard phone calls, whether it's in a selling situation, you'll be surprised at how you'll start to close the gap and have hard conversations in your personal life. And so that gap is everywhere, and it's the same everywhere. And when you start to go to work in controlling how you live in that gap between stimulus or idea and your response, that's where the magic is. And that's what you're experiencing. You know, I love vision boards and gratitude journaling because they help me think about what I want and why. This journal, it's going to teach you how you make your dreams come true. I created this journaling method a couple years ago because I wanted to stop thinking about what I wanted and actually make it happen. This is simple, it's backed by science, and it's going to help you make your dreams come true with just a couple minutes every morning. Let me show you how it works. At the very top, you write down the time, place, and date. This simple trick gets you present and grounded in the moment. Now notice, this is guilt-free journaling. There are no dates printed, so if you miss a day or two, you're not behind. Next, I'm gonna give you a superpower. This, my friend, is your inner compass. Learning to read your energy is the secret to greater passion, productivity, and living with more purpose. Research from the University of Pennsylvania proves that if you boost your mood in the morning, you actually increase your productivity all day long. These next two questions will help you take control of your energy, which changes how your mind perceives tasks and will make you more confident about the day ahead. And this section right here, it's the secret to having a great day. I want you to identify one project that matters to you today. Not 2, not 3, just 1. When you focus on just one project a day, you leverage the progress principle. It was invented at the Harvard Business School, and it will change your life and help you be more productive so you can make your dreams come true. Research proves you get more done when you focus on less. And every day, I want you to focus on just one thing. After you write down your top project, I want you to write down why this project matters to you. When you know your why, science says you're going to be more inspired and motivated to get it done. Now take that vision and make it your mission. Write down one small action that you're going to take today to move your dream forward. It doesn't matter how small it is, forward is forward. According to research, simply using this section of the journal makes you 76% more likely to go from dreaming to doing. And if you have any other thoughts about the project, here's some extra space to play around with. When you move from thinking to doing, it may make you feel overwhelmed. So let's change that attitude with a little gratitude. Studies prove that grounding yourself in something that you feel grateful for will boost your happiness and your effectiveness. Finally, I want you to write down your quitting time. Yep, you heard me right. Part of your morning routine should be deciding when you're going to stop working at night. If you feel like your wheels are spinning and you don't get anything done, if you have no balance between work and life, if you'd love to spend more time with your family and still feel like the most productive person you know, set a quitting time. This is called Parkinson's Law, and it's rocket fuel for your productivity. Now, let's go over to the next page. Everyone works differently, so this page is designed to work for you. If you love making long to-do lists and checking things off, here's the spot. If you want to plan out your day, there's a timeline on the left. And if you need a place to take notes, here's a place where you put them. So there you have it, the 5-second journal. Having a breakdown is one of the biggest things on the planet, because what you get is you get a break from your own bullshit, and you can look objectively at where you are, and for the first time look ahead and say, well, what do I want to go create? And 9 times out of 10, if you're discouraged right now, if you've got financial devastation, if you're facing something that is making this moment in time as hard for you as life was for Lewis and I in 2008 during the last recession, I beg you, ask yourself honestly if what you had is actually what you wanted. The thing that you just lost, that job that you bitched about all the time,
that relationship that was bad to you,
yes, or the friends you can't hang out with because it's convenient and you're in quarantine. Like, actually ask yourself if this is what you wanted, or were you just used to it? Being used to something, Lewis, I think is the biggest reason why people don't change. I asked my mother, I love my mother, I love my parents, they've been married 51 years, which is a feat because my mom was a teen mom. But I asked her once if she'd go to a personal development seminar with me.
What'd you say?
Are you kidding me? Why would I want to change at my age?
Oh, wow.
I might discover I hate my life.
Wow.
I was like, okay, I'm just going to leave that right there. And it's all that thinking, that overthinking, that thinking too big. Thinking big is about dreams. Thinking big is about goals. Thinking big is about your heart and your soul and figuring out what you want. Then once you do that and you think big and you see where you're headed, boom, you got to come back and you got to go brick by brick to make that vision stick. You got to go brick by brick to make the action stick. You got to go brick by brick to lay that pathway forward and to keep going. And let me tell you something, I don't care how busy you are, I don't care how tired you are, I don't care how much there is to do to make this big dream forward, you have time to lay 1 brick a day. You really do. You really do. And this is the secret, everybody. This is the secret to everything. It's to understanding that there is no timeline to getting your dreams done. All there is to do is to allow your heart and soul to dream big, to see the path forward, and then to pull yourself into the moment every day and have the discipline to be deliberate, to lay 1 brick on that path. That's it. And to keep reminding yourself that everything that you're learning on the way as you lie bricks down and you move forward a little at a time is helping you build the path. And there will be times that you start to lay bricks in this direction and you realize, whoa, wait a minute, I'm going over here and my dream is over there. I guess I better lay bricks over here and head back in the direction. Then you're going to go this way. That's great, because everything that you learned over here is going to be exactly what you needed in order to be doing what your big dream is. So one of the most important things when you're in a situation where the truth, the facts are that there is more on your plate than one human being can effectively handle on his or her own, there's a really important moment where you have to surrender to the chaos that your life is for the next couple weeks. Things are going to change when summer hits, but part of what I find personally is that when I resist, and I do resist, I resist what's actually happening when that's not the way that I want things to go. And so if you start complaining or you start bringing extra weight to all of the things that are going on, it's going to make it feel even more overwhelming. And if you can bring a sense of realism to it. So I call this, and I think Sean Anker's the one that came up with this term, realistic optimism. Realistic optimism is a really powerful mindset because you're not just putting a sunny spin on a crappy situation. You're being realistic about where you are in your life right now. And you are still maintaining an optimistic point of view. And what that means is that you, when you're an optimist, you believe that your actions and your thoughts matter. You believe that you can handle what's on your plate. You believe that based on your thoughts and your actions, you can positively affect the outcome of whatever it is that you're dealing with, whether it's being wildly overwhelmed because you're a single parent, or terrified because you just got a scary health diagnosis, or you're spinning because somebody just told you they don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore. Whatever it is that you're facing that's making you feel overwhelmed, first start with how important it is to be a realistic optimist. So there's a surrendering to what's so, but you're going to stay very optimistic and positive and know that everything that you think and do is in your control, and that when you know that your behavior matters, it gives you a sense of empowerment that's proven by research. Super duper important. It's also why you can have a very hard life right now and a very overwhelming life right now and still be happy. Because you know, based on being a realistic optimist, that this period will pass, and you know that there are things that you can think about and do that are within your control. Your friend is facing a problem. When you have to make decisions on behalf of your friend, you tend to think from multiple perspectives, you think about multiple outcomes, and ultimately you make a much better decision. What they found in research, though, is if they put you in the exact same situation, facing the exact same thing that your friend is, you're not able to be so objective because you're emotional, and you don't make that great a decision. What's the conclusion? Well, when you make decisions for other people, you're great. When we make decisions for ourselves, decisions that can be emotional, we're not so good at it. That's where the power of objectivity comes in. It's the ability to make a decision from a third party's perspective. Let me explain. So if you're facing a really important decision and you can feel yourself getting emotional, maybe you're thinking about asking for a raise or changing your career or changing your major or ending a relationship or starting a relationship, whatever it may be, if it's something that is emotional for you, you're going to have a hard time thinking about all the options, and you're going to be really attached emotionally because maybe you're concerned about the people who may be impacted by your decision. Maybe you're managing that somebody's going to be disappointed or hurt by what you need to do for you. This is when the power of objectivity is really important. Pick somebody that you really admire. I mean, it could be somebody like a Bill Gates or a Richard Branson or an Oprah Winfrey, or maybe you have a mentor. And stop yourself and ask, what would Oprah do in this situation? What would Richard Branson do in this situation? What would your mentor do in this situation? Bringing that level of third-party objectivity will yank you out of your body and your emotions, and it will help you give yourself the perspective that you need and the distance from your emotions so that you can actually assess your options and make the best decision for you. What would Mel do if Mel were making the decision, the best decision? You know, there's a really interesting example of somebody who did this in sports, and at the time, he actually got a lot of flack for it. It was LeBron James. Now, LeBron James, as you know, played for the Cleveland Cavaliers for a really, really long time, and he's arguably one of the best basketball players to ever hit the NBA. So he made this announcement that he was going to leave the Cleveland Cavaliers, where he had been playing forever, had rabid fans, and he was going to leave them and go to Miami.
Miami Heat. That was the conclusion you woke up with this morning.
That was the conclusion I woke up with this morning.
He was giving an interview to ESPN, and what he said was this. He said, LeBron James needs to do what's best for LeBron James. Now, people kind of laughed at him because it's a funny way to say the sentence, but this guy's really smart. He was leveraging the power of objectivity. Mel Robbins needs to learn how to do what's best for Mel Robbins, and you need to learn how to do what's best for you. I think I am engaged in emotional eating right now. It is 2:22 in the afternoon. The wheels are off today. I know why. The reason why is because I did not stick to my normal routine. And I've noticed since I did not stick to my routine, my day has sort of slid off the rails in terms of the decisions that I'm making. It's really random. Like, I had my son's chicken nuggets for lunch, and there's half an apple that I ate. I have not finished the amount of water I normally drink. It is 2:23, and I made myself an ice cream sundae because, why the hell not? And so as I'm sitting here enjoying my ice cream sundae, I just thought to myself, God, am I emotionally eating right now? Oh my God, this is so good. If I really unpack what I'm feeling right now, it's raining, it's freezing. I am mentally in a creative block, and I'm going to get this tool that we use on the Mel Robbins show out. I call it the word wheel. So I'm going to show you the word wheel right now. Here's how you use a word wheel. The average person can only name 3 emotions: happy, sad, and angry. But our emotions are actually much deeper and more complex. And the secret to getting unstuck or untriggered or freed up in any situation is to find the words that describe what you are truly feeling. So I'm going to start with the core emotion of anger and fear and work out from there. And so as I look at the word wheel, I feel inadequate as a writer. I feel worried that I'm not going to have a creative breakthrough. I feel helpless. The big one is I feel inadequate as a writer. Whoa, big breakthrough. So I am feeding my inadequacy with an ice cream sundae. You know what's interesting? Is simply finding the word that I feel inadequate as a writer. And that makes me feel afraid that the book isn't going to be good, that it's not going to be as good as I want, it's not going to do as well, it's not going to get any accolades or good reviews, it's not going to make a difference in your life. As you identify the feeling, and for me it's inadequate, that sundae doesn't taste very good anymore. Because it wasn't a sundae that I was craving, it was reassurance and comfort from this deeper feeling that I was feeling. Wow, that's powerful stuff. Really powerful stuff. So if you are at a moment where you catch yourself emotionally eating, or you just feel untethered or numb, pull out the word wheel. You can find it at melrobbins.com. And I think you'll find it to be a really incredible tool that will help you locate what you're truly working through. And instead of reaching for an ice cream sundae, which honestly is going to now tank my mood because of all the sugar and make me feel lethargic. If you can identify the word, which for me is inadequate, inferior, worried, frustrated, you can let those feelings rise up, move through them, and then move on. Two hours later, and let me tell you the impact of having fed my feelings. First of all, I am totally bloated. So I realize that that's not big, but for me, my stomach is just like, oh, because all that sugar and dairy that I just pounded down is now sitting here like a rock. And this is the problem with emotional eating, is you get caught in this cycle where you feed these feelings and then your body starts to tank and your mood tanks and your stomach gets bloated. And so then you start to make yourself wrong and feel ashamed and feel like a bad person because you did it. So how do you stop emotional eating? And what business do I have giving any of us advice given that I just did it? Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do tomorrow when I inevitably hit that creative block. Is emotional eating, you know that it's emotional if it's comes on suddenly, if you aren't just craving something, but you are reaching for something that is a treat or that's soothing. And before I do that tomorrow, when my writer's block inevitably happens again, I will take a deep breath and I will ask myself, what am I feeling? Why am I reaching for this food? Am I hungry, or am I trying to soothe or comfort or distract myself? Because I was clearly trying to soothe and distract myself from the feelings that writer's block was bringing up. And now I need to get some gas sex or something, because I got to distract myself from the gas pains that I have from my emotional eating. But, honestly, the discomfort I'm feeling right now, that's not going to stop me from doing it tomorrow. The only thing that will stop this pattern is spotting the pattern and using the tools that I just gave you. Identify what you're feeling, ask you why it is you're reaching for this if you're not hungry, but you're trying to soothe, distract, or reward yourself. You're feeding some feeling. Recognize the feeling, put down the ice cream, go for a walk, choose something healthy, address the feeling. Don't reach for the food.
Your mind collects mental lint. That's right. That's all that doubt is. That's all that fear is. That's all that anxiety is. That's all that worry is. That's all that people pleasing is. This is lint from life that is collected in your brain. And you know what? Lint stands for something. Get your pencils ready. You lose inspiration due to negative thoughts. That's all that's happening. You're not broken. You're just blocked. The filter in your mind is blocked, just like a dryer filter gets blocked by lint. And you can't think this stuff away. You got to take action. And the single most effective tool on the planet, hands down, to wipe away the lint in your mind, to wipe away the doubt, to wipe away the fear, to wipe away the anxiety, is the 5-second rule. I'm dead serious about this. When you feel the fear rise up, when you feel the self-doubt start to block, when you feel the anxiety start to take over, when you feel like you're losing the inspiration to move, you're just going to count backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I know it sounds dumb, but trust me on this one. Counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, wipes the lint off the filter in your brain. That lint that makes you lose your inspiration to act due to negative thoughts. And once you get to 1, it's clear. So your confidence and your courage can flow right through you.
The Dallas Uber driver.
Oh.
So as somebody who has gotten into countless Ubers, and some small percentage of them know who I am, and then of course they start asking questions. Talk to me about chasing your dreams and this quote that you have that an aha moment does not necessarily lead to an aha life.
Yeah, the Uber driver in Dallas that's in this book. I get choked up when I think about him. An aha moment.
Why choked up?
I get choked up because what happens for me every single day is, and you hear from people every single day, you've got millions and millions of people that are inspired by, empowered by, impacted by your content. There are people out there that use your work as a lifeline, and it is humbling. And what I am really present to in the work that I'm putting out, in the stuff that I'm sharing, whether it's my failures or the things that I'm using that are helping me in my own struggles, is just how much people are holding themselves back and how much pain people feel. Because most folks know what they dream about and what they want. And yet they're spending all of their time and energy arguing against what they want. And so you can have all these epiphanies. I hope that when somebody listens to our conversation and watches this, that they have a massive aha moment. But it's not going to mean fucking shit if you don't take action and do something about it. The aha moment is the door that opens. But your new life does not begin unless you fucking step through the door. And most people, and that's what was so kind of, the simple idea of high-fiving yourself, of encouraging yourself, of supporting yourself. Most people, when you have an aha moment and the door to your new life opens up, instead of going, I got this, let's go, and high-fiving yourself to step forward, most of us go, I don't know if I'm worth it. I don't know if right now is the right time to do this. I don't think I'm good enough. I've failed so many times, I can't go through that door. And that's the problem I want to attack right now. That there is somewhere in your life that you know what you want. You can feel it pulling you. And you are actively arguing against it. You're bringing yourself down. You're beating yourself out. Like, people will cheer for you and me. They won't cheer for themselves. I'm the same way. And so this Uber driver, the story that you're talking about, I get into the car and we start driving, and I'm on the phone as we're driving, and I'm having a conversation with somebody about this daytime talk show that I launched, which was a dream with Sony Pictures Television, and then was promptly fired after season 1. It was a huge fucking failure because we didn't make it to season 2. Huge failure in real world terms. Right. Massive success when it comes to the timeline of my life. And so I'm talking to this person about the talk show. I hang up the phone and this Uber driver comes alive. He's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're in my cab. And I'm like, why? And he says, because I want to talk to you about something. I think you can help me. And I'm like, great, how can I help you? And he says, I have a dream of being a Oscar-winning actor and creating opportunities for other Black and Latino men to do the same in acting. And I'm like, freaking fantastic. What the fuck are you doing in Dallas? Right? The guy's 25. And so I go, the game is in New York and LA. I mean, sure, you can act, you can write stuff, you can be here in Dallas, but why are you not in LA? Why are you not in New York? And he's like, you're right. I need to move to LA. I'm like, why not? And he says, I have $700 in my bank account. And I'm like, that's freaking fantastic. You have $700 in a car? Dude, drop me off and get driving. What are you waiting for? And so we have this whole conversation, and I write about it in this book, where I am actively arguing for his dream, and he is actively arguing against his dream. And what is so sad is throughout this conversation, Tom, he's like, you're right. $700 could get me there. You're right. I am only 25. You're right. If I keep thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking about what I want to be doing, I'm not only going to drive in circles, my whole life is going to spin in circles as I think about what I want and I don't do shit about it. And then you are going to find yourself not at 25, but at 45 or 65, and you're going to be so filled with regret that you never fucking put a bet on yourself. And so this conversation ends with him declaring that he's going to go to California and me giving him a bunch of tools that I talk about in this book. And the point of the story is, does he move or not? I don't fucking know. The point of the story is, it's so easy to see what somebody else should do. It's so easy to cheer for somebody else. We all do that, right? We cheer for our favorite sports teams. We follow our favorite influencers and authors. We plan birthday parties for our friends. We take on extra work from our colleagues. We support everyone around us. We do not know how to do it for ourselves. I have been practicing this habit for a little over a year. And it all began in April of 2020. And this is not something that I was like, okay, I got to write a book. It's got to have a 5 in it. It's going to be 5 years since I've written a book. Thank you, dyslexia and ADHD. What am I going to write about? That's not how this happened. The high 5 habit saved me. It was a ladder that helped me climb out of a hole I had fallen into emotionally, physically, spiritually. And a year later, after practicing what is going to sound like a weird, stupid thing, which you will resist. And Jay, you and I are going to unpack this because it's sad why everybody resists it. It has to do with the dust that's accumulated.
And I will tell you, after a year of practicing this, I don't even see a face or a body. I see a soul. I don't even have to high five myself. I still do because it feels good. And we're going to explain the science that is bananas about why this actually works for everybody who tries it. Because this is not something that's new. You are tapping into programming that's already in your mind and body and now directing it back at yourself. It's incredible. I don't ever criticize myself. I don't ever see what's wrong. I see a human being who's trying, who deserves love and respect, and I know that it's my job to give it to her. You know, the 5-second rule, which I created, I don't know, over a decade ago, that's gone on to help me change my whole life. It's a little starting ritual and a brain hack that you can use to help yourself take the actions and change the thoughts that change your life. It helped me be more productive. It helped me get stuff done. The high five habit has changed who I am. It has deleted a lifetime of criticism and negativity from my mind, and it has reprogrammed the soundtrack to be somebody that's supportive and a cheerleader. It's extraordinary. I am in the middle of working on my next book. It's called The High Five Habit. I believe with all of my heart and being that every man, woman, child, person, grandparent, everybody should infuse their days with habits of celebration and self-confidence. And the fastest and easiest and most science-backed way to quickly start to change how you see yourself is by adopting a simple habit of high-fiving your reflection in the mirror every single morning. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. Are you serious, Mel Robbins? That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I know it sounds dumb. But the reason why your first instinct when you think about waking up, whether you're in your robe or your underwear, or your PJs or your birthday suit, and walking into that bathroom and having a moment with yourself and raising your hand and high-fiving yourself is because your self-confidence is in the gutter. You believe some garbage about yourself. You think you're a bad person, or you're unworthy, or you're ugly, or nobody likes you. Or how about this one? This was the story of my life. I have f***ed up my life so badly, I might as well just flush it down the toilet. You have some narrative in your mind that is so negative that when you look in the mirror, you see somebody worth trashing. You see what's wrong. You pick apart your appearance. And I want to reverse that, because here's the deal about self-confidence. Self-confidence begins with you. You realize the word self is in there, right? I can't give you confidence. I can give you a little boost. I can give you tools. I can encourage you. But confidence is forged in fire. It's something that's within you. And here's the thing I want you to realize about confidence. You are a confident person. That's why you miss feeling that way. You can only miss what you know. You've just been blocked from the feeling of it. And wherever you are right now in your life, I'm telling you, confidence is in there. You just got to figure out how to tap into it. And you've been building confidence all along, by the way. Every time that you have fallen on your face, or you've tried something and failed, or you've gone out and thought you found the love of your life, and then your heart's broken, and then you pick yourself up again, and then you dust yourself. You're building confidence the entire time, because confidence is not built on the high days. Confidence is built on the low ones. Confidence is built when you are struggling. Because when you see yourself go for something and fall, when you see yourself try and get knocked down, when you see yourself stand back up after getting abused or traumatized or discriminated against and moving ahead, you are building this reserve within yourself where you know you can rely on yourself. You know you can face hard things and you can keep moving forward. You know you have your own back. So it's in there. Your life has been helping you build it. Now you got to just dig in and tap into it and use it to shut that critic up in your head. So the way you're going to do that is every morning, I'm not kidding.
You're going to raise your hand in the mirror and high five yourself. Look at how many people are doing this. You're not the only one. For 5 mornings in a row, I want you to high five yourself. And when you do this, I want you to use the hashtag high five challenge. You know what's happening when you raise your hand up in the mirror? You are taking the lifetime positive association that you have with cheering for other people, believing in other people, celebrating other people, saying, let's go to other people. And you are marrying that positive association with your reflection. You have this behavior pattern where you snap. You have this behavior pattern where you yell and you get upset and you make people wrong and you don't mean to. If you are somebody who's ever said to yourself, I wish I could stop yelling, or I wish I could just snap, I could stop snapping. This video is absolutely unbelievable, okay? And the reason why is I explained this research that was so mind-blowing for me. It's called Ghosts in the Nursery. A lot of the patterns that you have that you don't have control over are patterns from your childhood, and they are there because when you were a kid, you experienced people in your life that were tense. Did you ever have a parent that was a yeller? Did you ever have a teacher that was a yeller, or a coach that was a yeller? And secretly in your little kid body, whenever your mom or dad would yell, or your coach would yell, or your teacher would yell, or your grandmother or grandfather would yell, you would feel tense, right? You would feel nervous. You would feel on edge. Of course, that's how we all feel, right? Well, here's the reason why you might have an issue, like I used to have an issue, where I would yell at my kids and then I'd feel terrible about it. I'd snap at my husband and then I'd feel terrible about it. Psychologists, and then I would say to myself, I'm not doing that again, I'm not doing that again, but I wouldn't have the ability to end it. Psychologists call this ghosts in the nursery. It means that any situation where you start to feel tense or you start to feel stressed out, guess what happens? Your body remembers what it was like when you were little to feel tense and stressed out. And what were the adults doing around you when you felt that way? They were snapping. They were yelling. And now here you are repeating the pattern. And you don't know why. And you feel guilty. And I'm explaining this to you because it wasn't until I thought, holy cow, like I know I don't want to snap at my husband. I know I don't want to take my anger from work out on my family. Why can't I stop this? That's the reason why. It's because it's a pattern that you remember from being a kid, that the adults around you were snapping or yelling or being mean anytime. And when they were, you felt tense and stressed out. So now that you're an adult, when you're tense and stressed out, you repeat the behavior that you witnessed. Crazy, right? So how do you stop it? Well, the first step to stopping anything is to actually understand what you're dealing with. Now that you know you're dealing with a pattern, now all you need to do is basically say, okay, I'm going to put a practice in place that's going to interrupt this pattern. What's the practice? Well, a really good one is before you walk in the house at the end of the day, if you're stressed out, take 5. Take 5 deep breaths. Like reset your mood, reset your energy before you walk in the house, and you'll be surprised by how much nicer you are to the people around you. Another thing that you can do, and this one's not so fun, is you can train your partner, your kids, your roommates, your family, that if you're trying to get a hold of how you bring stress home, you can train them to say to you, hey, don't take your work stress out on me. When somebody that you care about says that to you, it's a humbling experience. And the person that says it the most in my life is my son, Oakley. The youngsters seem to love to cross-check the adults. So be careful with taking that advice. Why don't you like the size you are?
Because it's unhealthy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't believe in losing weight to be skinny. I believe in getting healthy because of how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
So if you love the size that you are and it's healthy, you should stay the size that you are.
Oh.
But if you look in the mirror and seeing your body the size that it is gives you evidence to say, I'm a piece of shit, or I'm unworthy. What do you say to yourself when you see yourself in the mirror?
All all of those things.
Tell me, what is it? Let's get it out of your head and let's bring it to the light, because you feel comfortable saying this to yourself when you're alone, don't you? I want you to say it out loud, because it's not okay to say this stuff to yourself. What do you say to yourself that we're not going to say anymore?
I'm disgusting.
I'm disgusting. What else?
I hate the way I look.
I hate the way that I look.
I hate the way I feel.
I hate the way that I feel. Okay. What do you want? What do you deserve?
To feel good when I walk down the street.
Yes. Yes, you do. See, I think at the heart of this is a belief that you don't deserve to feel that way. So who taught you to feel that you don't deserve it? When did you start saying that to yourself, that you don't deserve it, Holly?
Maybe when I was like 6 or 7.
That's usually when it happens. So what I want you to do is I want you to leave here, and what you're going to go to war against is not your weight. You're going to go to war against the pattern in your head, okay? Because the longer you invalidate yourself, the less motivated you're going to be to change. Because you're beating yourself down. So we got to start with not fixing you. You're not broken. You're perfect how you are, Holly. You are. I know you don't feel that way, but I feel that way.
Yeah.
It's the pattern up here that's broken.
Yeah.
So we just want you to have a zero tolerance policy for this, like, I'm not worth it, I don't deserve it, I'm a piece of shit, this, all that. No, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it's like an axe. You got that? And then you're gonna come up, what can we say instead?
I can do this.
I do that, I can do this, but more important, I think it needs to be more heart-centered. I deserve to feel good.
Yeah.
I deserve to have what I want. Watch me go get it.
The thing that I'm stuck on is that I have a bazillion ideas about things that I can create and do, and courses and trainings and la-di-da-di-da.
Who can relate?
And so actually moving from the idea and even creating the whole curriculum and all of that to actually making it happen.
Yeah.
And doing it.
So I have a cool strategy that I use, and I hope it works for you. So I carry a little notebook, and I actually borrowed this from Chris, because when we lived in New York City, he used to carry around a notebook like this size, and whenever he had an idea, he'd just jot it down, and then he'd stick it in his back pocket. And it was just full of all kinds of stuff. So I carry around a notebook, and this one's new, so it doesn't really have much in it. As ideas come, I just jot it down in that notebook. And then what happens for me is I get anxiety because I'm afraid that I'm going to forget the idea. Then that anxiety makes me get distracted and unfocused and overwhelmed. And so I think if you were to have a little notebook on you at all times, and when those creative juices and those impulses go, that you jot them down, that's going to remove one layer of the overwhelm. My mind can be my worst enemy. I was laying in bed last night and I had fallen asleep and I kept waking up. And you know what I was thinking about? I was waking up because I could hear people in the hallway kind of coming in from a late night of partying. And you know what the first thing that my mind defaulted to? There being a fire in the hotel. And I started having these visions of my daughter and I going down the stairwell and getting trapped. And then I had visions of us being on the balcony on this room and fire kind of engulfing. And what are we doing? Are we tying a rope? I mean, it's just insanity, absolute insanity. And I used the techniques that I teach you. I went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I am not thinking about this. And the thought disappeared because I constantly reset my mindset. And, you know, one of the reasons why I'm telling you this is if you are tired of feeling negative, if you feel often that your own thoughts are the things that trip you up in life, that you wish that your mind were more positive, I'm telling you that I'm the same way. Just because I teach this stuff, just because I study this, just because I do what I do for a living, doesn't make me immune to what it means to be human. And what it means to be human is that your brain and your body want you to survive. Your brain and your body remember situations that scare the daylights out of you. Your brain and your body try to talk you out of anything that makes you feel risky. And your brain, given that it has been trained by situations in the past, and given that you allow it to worry all the time, you have a habit of doing it, if you're not careful and you're not deliberate, your brain will default to scary crap like mine was last night. That doesn't mean you're broken. It means that your brain is thinking something that's broken, and it's time for you to reset your mindset and pull it back. But I know that in this next chapter that I consciously create, I want to have more fun. I really want to love the process.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it so hard on myself and be gripping everything so tight. And it's really easy for me to see it in other people because I know what it feels like in here. I'm working hard to break the patterns that still hold me back. And the big one that holds me back is bulldozing. It's literally when I start to feel any level of tension. This is particularly true in my marriage. I'm married to a saint. Thank God Chris Robbins meditates every morning. It's the only reason why we've lasted 26 years. It's how he puts up with me. When I feel my whatever emotion rise, I immediately raise my voice.
Wow.
It's how I assert power in the relationship. And I am so committed, Lewis, to breaking that pattern.
Wow.
And being a more fun person to be around and a kinder person to be around. You'll get the day where you celebrate, and that was yesterday. And you'll have that moment where you cannot believe that you actually got into the school that you wanted, or you got the job that you wanted, or you found the person that really compliments you finally, or that you got the raise that you wanted, or you built the house that you've always dreamt of. And then a funny thing happens after you actually achieve the dream. After you celebrate, life goes right back to the way that it was. And for me, what I'm present to is not the fact that this talk show is actually happening. I'm focused on all the work that I now need to do in order to do the talk show as powerfully as I can. And I think that the point that I'm trying to make about the fact that, yeah, you can achieve all the things that you're going for, but I've even noticed already in just 24 hours, like the crazy rise in emotion and excitement has already been replaced with things are back to normal. That is exactly what psychologists talk about when it comes to happiness, because happiness is not about achieving things. It's not about getting the result. It's about how you pursue the things that you enjoy and why you're pursuing them. And so the key to life, and I'm seeing it happen in my own life, is not actually checking the boxes and getting all those things that you dream about. It's how you go about living your life as you're pursuing them. Because if I were just gonna boop, check the box and now I'm done, biggest goal of my life to have a daytime talk show, just achieve that, boop, what do I have to look forward to? Nothing if you've already achieved it, which is why it's so important for you to understand that the real meaning of happiness is about how you show up every day. Yes, you should have big goals. Yes, you should have big dreams. Yes, 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 and yes, you should pursue them. But don't ever think that, quote, making your dreams come true is what actually makes you happy. Because what actually makes you happy is having those big dreams and waking up every morning and doing a little something to push yourself to make them happen. It's about the pursuit. The only thing that you can do is change yourself for the better and hope that that means that when you change for the better, that your friends and the people that you love and care about are inspired and encouraged to change for the better too. And if you have people in your life that are stuck, they probably are also resigned. They don't believe that their behavior can change this. They don't believe that their attitude can change this. Maybe they're feeling a little beaten down. I want to address my comments to those of you that have learned the 5-second rule. You've tried the countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's not working. I got to level with you. The 5-second rule always works. It's backed by science, and it has helped change the lives of millions of people. The problem is not the rule. The problem is you actually don't want to change. I'm dead serious. I want you to just stop and think about that for a minute. For people who try to count down but then don't actually push themselves forward, for those of you that are struggling with self-doubt, struggling to get up on time, struggling to make the calls to grow your business, struggling to stay motivated, you know about the 5-second rule, but you don't use it, there's a simple reason why you're not using it. You don't want to change. Look, change is hard. I get it. If you're going to change anything about your life, you're going to have to face the unknown. You're going to have to step out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to try something new. You're going to have to risk rejection and judgment. It's scary. I get it. That's why most people never change. So if you're like Leanne and you've got all the tools at your disposal, but you still are stuck, the reason why you're stuck is you don't want to change yet. So stop complaining about the tools and go inward and actually examine, what are you afraid of? Seriously, what do you get out of staying stuck? What do you get from staying heavy? What do you get from not making the money that you want? What do you get from dating a string of losers? You get safety? I don't know, you get the ability to complain? Are you the one that's constantly dominating all your friendships because you're constantly griping about how bad your life is? I don't know what you're getting out of it, but you're getting something. The moment you decide that you're sick and tired of it, the moment that you decide that you are so ready to change, the 5-second rule, this puppy right here, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it'll be there and it'll work. And look, when you start deciding that it's time to change, you may have to use 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 5,000 times a day for weeks on end, because you're pushing through self-doubt and you're pushing through procrastination and you're pushing through resignation and you're pushing through fear over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then what's going to happen, and I see this happening around the world. I know that it works. We have proof that it works. If you use 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and you push through everything that's stopping you right now, because this is your year, this is the moment that you're going to change. At some point, something's going to click and the momentum's going to kick in. And suddenly, change isn't going to be scary. Change is going to be what's happening. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe, because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.